God Bless You, Who Are You? By John Tantalon. A long time ago, I heard a story of a terrifying incident which happened not far from where my grandparents lived. It was back in the 1950s. An elderly neighbour by the name of Angus Anderson died alone in the house a few doors along from my grandparents. A week or so later, there was a sale of the older man's personal effects. A neighbour by the name of Agnes Parson attended the auction in old Anderson's house and managed to acquire a large, foreboding and ancient brass bed. The grand old piece, delivered to the house by a couple of local lads, erected in one of the two rooms on the same day of the sale. The Parson family consisted of Jock, Agnes and their 6 children. Jock, a trawlerman, spent much time at sea. Agnes spent her days running about after the children and keeping the house in as ship-shape condition as possible. It was the first evening after the arrival of the new grand piece of furniture, and the first to venture to bed that evening was 6-year-old Christopher. The other children played out until late due to summertime and the middle of the school holidays. It was around 7 p.m. and still light outside when Christopher returned from the bedroom and into the living room to confront his mother. Christopher claimed that the bed was moving and that somebody had joined him in the vicinity and not a family member. Agnes promptly returned the sobbing youngster to the dark confines of the bedroom and instructed him to get to sleep. It was lighting up time, and Agnes began to try to round up the Parson children from their evening activities and get them in for the night. It was at this point when she suddenly stood alerted to loud cries from the bedroom that Christopher slept. The terrified Christopher sat frozen and upright, pointing to the far corner of the room.
There's someone in the room!
Agnes, frustrated by the child's continued disturbance, yelled at him to get to sleep and insisted that his delusions were nothing more than nightmares. Christopher grudgingly agreed and clambered back beneath the sheets to attempt to sleep. It was now 9 p.m. and all children in and settled for the night. There had been no further disturbance from the room, and Agnes presumed Christopher to be fast asleep. After getting 2 of the younger children dressed for bed, they quietly entered the bedroom to accompany their younger brother. Upon entering the door, Agnes and the children stood confronted at Christopher sitting upright in the newly acquired brass bed, looking into the corner of the room. He was not alarmed and crying out like before, but appeared to be in conversation with somebody or something. Agnes asked the wide-awake youngster who he was talking to, which he calmly replied,
"It's the old man over there, Mum. He wants his bed back."
Christopher Parson not only described an older man fitting the exact description of Old Man Anderson, but an account of someone he had never clapped eyes on in his life. Agnes attempted to play off the youngster's incredible story as more bad dreams and get the other children to bed, which she did, but deep down she understood the predicament all too well. Earlier that year, Agnes visited a local spiritualist woman by the name of Mrs. Rutherford. During her reading, Mrs. Rutherford informed Agnes that a spirit would visit and request an item from her property. Mrs. Rutherford instructed Agnes not to be afraid when this should occur, but to relay the following words to the spirit. "God bless you. Who are you?" This action is precisely what Agnes did that night after the children lay tucked up in bed. The following day, Agnes, along with the help of a couple of neighbours, removed the bed from the property and dumped the large and foreboding brass structure down a nearby lane. There were no more sightings of Old Man Anderson. The story became that of legend until last year. I was visiting an elderly relative from the Royston area at sheltered accommodation. He had a visitor that night by the name of Janice, Chris Parson's daughter. Janice told me a comical story that she thought may enjoy due to my interest in local folklore. It was the story of a strange old bed she acquired many years ago when she moved out of the family home. She informed me of strange dreams and the thought of somebody watching her from the corner of the room. Did Agnes really ditch the bed after all?